Why don't we like ourselves? So maybe the answer is really simple. Maybe we don't truly know who we are. How can you like someone you don't really know? When I was a kid, I wore big, thick glasses. I was segregated and left out in the cold a little bit. I didn't really belong, and I felt left out, and I was bullied. So oftentimes I would eat my lunch in the men's bathroom, and I also had a learning disability, so I didn't really process material as easily as others. So consequently, I developed a story that I wasn't enough. And this wasn't enough story kept surfacing in my life as a young man. That story stuck, and I believed it after a while. And I just found that this negative internal dialogue in my mind, that I was stupid, that I didn't belong, that I didn't fit in, kept resurfacing. So I went the other way, and I tried to prove myself, tried to do the best I could in order to improve that story about myself. And it was difficult. In my understanding of spirituality and meditation, I learned about Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. In that study, there's a word called avidya, A-V-I-D-Y-A, and that simply means ignorance. And one of the first 5 kleshas, which means afflictions in Sanskrit, is avidya, which means ignorance. Ignorance, you're not knowing who you truly are, your true self. And I found that to be so powerful, and that it is, in fact, the root of suffering, not knowing who you are. And many people go through life sleepwalking, not really knowing who they are. And it really becomes an affliction in the deepest way. It's suffering in essence, because you base your whole reality understanding who you are, the wisdom, the discernment of who you are. Once I learned who I truly was, that opened up a new vista for me. It gave me self-confidence. It gave me self-esteem. I developed these feedback loops in success. I could do things that I never thought I could do, and it changed the mindset of who I thought I was. So today I developed these tools, one tool in particular to help us remind ourselves who we are truly. I call it see, shift, shine. See, shift, shine. So the first step is to see. Now, seeing isn't with the eyes, it's with discernment, coming at yourself from a place of courageous objectivity, courageous observation, witnessing, and seeing who you are for truth. I've done this through meditation and sitting there looking at myself and realizing, it's like Michelangelo when he carved out the statue of David. He just asked himself, okay, I'm going to chip away at what David isn't. And that's what I did in meditation. I chipped away at my traumas, judgments, my criticisms of other people, and I saw that those mindsets, those conditionings weren't who I was. So after clearing away who I wasn't, it left who I am, which is ananda, which is bliss, which is happiness and peace. That's what I know to be right now, is that I am peace, that I am happiness. I have carved away at everything I wasn't. And that was such a valuable exercise for me, this discernment, and it left clarity, it left wisdom, it left a huge self-confidence in me. So the first step is seeing. That's the most important step, I think. And then from seeing, step 2, which is to shift. You shift your perspective. You reframe your reality, and you start looking at yourself from a different lens. And I like the idea of like when you might say to yourself, well, I'm so stupid. You might reshift it to the idea that, well, I'm learning, and learning takes time. So it's a more kinder approach, right? It turns out that in psychology, 85% of people engage in negative self-talk on a regular basis. Wow, that's pretty intense. 85% of people engage in negative self-talk. And it's also been shown in the Journal of Clinical Psychology that 8 weeks of mindfulness training changes your perspective completely, and suddenly you become more aware of the kinds of thoughts that enter your mindscape, and you end up being more compassionate, more accepting, more kinder to yourself. You increase your level of understanding and your level of compassion towards yourself like 20%. So mindfulness training is really important in that regard, and research backs this up. So this leads us to the third step, which is shine. Now, shining is really simple. It's taking action steps toward goals and completing the goals, following through, and showing yourself that you've succeeded. And this is so important, I've found for myself. And it's kind of like learning how to play the guitar. At first, it's very difficult, and your fingers get blisters, and you suck. And then suddenly you get better and a little bit better, and you reinforce this thing, right? It's a feedback loop. Or when you're playing tennis, you know the drill, right? When you start playing tennis, oh, I hate this. And then after you get a little better, more affirmative about your technique and your ability, and you go, wow, I love tennis. And that happened for me in business. I took some chances, I took some risks, and I got better at it, and I succeeded with real estate investment, with relationships, with public speaking, all kinds of avenues in life. I just took a little step, a little goal, I identified it, and then succeeded. And that suddenly polished the mirror of my self-esteem. I was able to see myself in a new way. I was more confident. Those action steps, those goal completions, really ramped up my confidence and my self-esteem. So those are the 3 steps toward liking yourself better. Seeing yourself in a new way, a truer way, without trauma, without childhood grievances or tendencies or judgments or criticisms, and then shifting your perspective. Oh, you know what? I'm not stupid. I'm just learning. That's a new way of looking at yourself, shifting your perspective, reframing, and then shining, taking action steps toward goals that you complete, and suddenly you go, wow, I'm confident. So you get the idea that this avidya, this ignorance about knowing who you truly are, is so important to your confidence and your self-esteem. And then you just develop the habit of seeing yourself in this newer light. And that's where meditation really comes into play. As I said before, mindfulness, being aware of your thoughts without judgment. The judgment part is really important. Taking time to courageously look at yourself in meditation. That's been big for me, to sit there and realize, like Michelangelo just carved away at what David wasn't, and he chipped away and then left the statue there. And that's what I'm talking about here, which is the root of our suffering, not seeing ourselves for who we truly are. And you develop this habit, and it's a continual daily understanding. It's a wisdom of who you are. It really gives you that home base. It's a baseline of happiness that you never have to worry about, never have to doubt yourself, because it's always there. That's your home. If you've enjoyed this talk, why not hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more on meditation, mindfulness, and personal growth.